Good day and good evening, and welcome back to Roulette Live with me, Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. Tonight, as usual, target is like about 10 roulettes at least. Often we get a bit more. Usually depends on the guild tests and how much hard stuff we actually get. Tonight, I'm just going to be playing barrier healers. Now, there's a few reasons for that. The first one is I felt like playing barrier healers. The second one is that a lot of the time I feel like when I do bring up like oh, I'm going to be playing barrier healer, like I'm going to go scholar or sage, there are people in the chat who are like, yes, finally, I am having a little bit of trouble with that. And then we get like a duty where there isn't really anything to talk about. So it's like, great, thanks. Didn't get anything out of that. I didn't learn anything. So if we're just doing barrier healers, like a lot of the things you can learn from playing Scholar also applies to Sage and vice versa. So by playing just barrier healers, there's at least a chance that we'll get something where there's something useful to talk about. Or we'll just have a good time with memes. On the bright side, healers usually get queues relatively fast, and because I'm the healer, there's a very, very, very low chance that that the duty will go slow because of the healer, because it'll be me. So that's pretty much the plan. I'll probably just alternate between Scholar and Sage for the most part. Maybe we'll probably only alternate if we get something that isn't a guild test. But that's the plan. Now, with that said, hey Taldemar, hey Teenley, hey Sally, hey Jen Monica, hey Aradel, hey Lana, hey Nox, hey Ceres, hey Balonti, hey Cobalt, hey Naomi, hey Milo, hey Rust, hey Medusa, hey Fila, hey Matthew, hey Emily, hey Kiwi, hey Humble Student, hey Nozereld, hey Dan, hey Tabi, and hey, is that the same Cobalt or is that a different Cobalt? And also, hey, Lidero, hope you're all doing very well. And hey Cabal, hope you're doing well as well. Right, but that is the plan, and as usual, I was doing some Wondrous Tales stuff earlier. As usual, and I'm just going to say it at the outset here. If you are on Chaos, the EU data center, you are welcome to try and snipe me. I specifically announce the time in Eorzea time, which is universally the same for all players, at least on Chaos. I announce when I'm going to queue, like a good 15 seconds in advance, so that you can hear when I'm going to queue in the stream before I do it. So you can, try and snipe me if you feel like it. I'm mentioning that because some people that I've watched have been like, is that okay? Does he find that annoying? I don't mind. I'm specifically announcing it so that you have a chance, because especially as a healer, you pretty much have to queue exactly, or it will not work. Thank you, Erdl. I have done that. I keep names of friends visible, though. But thank you. Right, gamer time. I will queue when it says 15:10. As long as you don't snipe him with only guild tests. I mean, if you can do that, then that would be funny in its own right. Like, let's be honest here, that could be funny. Oh, Ruin is a gain on 1. Oh, sorry, Art of War is a gain on 1. Oh yeah, that's true. Sarah's put out sort of a bounty of some sort on sniping me with a higher level extreme. Aradel? Can you kill off that first time chatter there? Good, thank you. I was having trouble doing it while also keeping this tank alive. Oh, that sometimes happens on YouTube as well, Agent Monica. They're usually just slightly, like, they're just weirder. And yeah, Aradel put together a bingo card that you can find pinned in the memes channel on the Discord. Specifically for Mentor Roulette. See if you can get a bingo on it. Uh-oh. Sarah's, the reason why the YouTube bots don't link anything is because I have set it up on YouTube so that it auto-blocks any message with a link in it. He's off. Hope you're doing well. Somehow we lived. Those 7 bone stacks? Yes, it is. Someone AoE'd the zombies. You shall not hurt the zombies in that fight. You kill them with the spread marker. That does basically no damage. It's an appropriate dungeon for All Saints Wake? Yeah, it is. Hey Bronzo, hope you're doing well. Well, I guess our tank will learn the hard way that we need to do the side rooms here. And the thing is, the zombies also do basically no damage in that fight. Like, it's all a ruse. Is this first time for tank? I'm guessing it's first time. They are a sprout, and they seem a little lost. The funny thing there is that the tank specifically has all the tools necessary to escape being feared there. Like after the initial 5 seconds. Hey Vince, hope you're doing well. Now we can continue. Let's see if people will help with the soaking of the things. Oh. They got it. They understood the assignment. This is going to hurt a lot. No, I thought it would hurt way more. Never mind. Got a few achievements yesterday. Nice. Which ones did you get? Age Monica says got 15 replacement pop for Rathalos Extreme and instantly got DC'd for some reason. Wait, what? Like you just got kicked out? Hey Haunted Mask, hope you're doing well. Stone Vigil on Sage? That's not too bad. The main concern is whether the tank pulls like mega huge. And then whether they are using their cooldown smartly or not. But it does seem like a strangely common situation that I'll get what appears to be first-timer sages in Stone Vigil. And that's weird. Well, I'm guessing the reason why you just didn't get to have the duty agent Monica is because maybe the group vote abandoned by the time you came in. Or maybe you were kicked. I don't know. So far, no wipes, Haunted Mask. Although, we got 7 Vuln stacks on the first boss because our team did not realize that the zombies are not for attacking. They're for looking at. Cosmetic zombies. And then you have a new band name. Cosmetic zombies. Well, one thing's for certain, you can't say the team isn't helping with the mechanics. Da-da. It would be very, very... well, I guess actually there was no first timer because they didn't get a second chance. I suppose it wouldn't be surprising if we just get a lot of Realm Reborn leveling dungeons or, like, hard dungeons. That is actually pretty common for healer too, I feel like. See, I will queue when it says 56. The dancer that doesn't... I see that surprisingly frequently. Especially in MSQ Roulette, but that's probably no surprise. I've mentioned before that that's where you meet some of the weirdest players. Oh boy, it's a male Darkhold. My favorite. It's not so bad. Let's see how big the tank will pull. It is really funny how a pull like this, like just this, which is relatively small, can be mildly, like very mildly challenging if it's pulled outside of the crystal's light. Whereas pulling literally everything up to the door can be trivial as long as you pull it into the crystal light. Oh, tank really wants this door opened, I guess. They just wanted it open. They didn't want to do anything with it. They just wanted it open. Sure. They didn't even enter the room. Hey Boobermet and Eyelid, hope you're doing well. Pretty funny, the tank specifically requested someone else stand in it. Didn't do anything with the freedom of no longer having to stand in it themselves, but you got it. I'm pretty alright, Eyelid. Thank you. It is quite weird, like that the crystal light gives that much damage reduction. I wonder if they really, really wanted to be absolutely certain. Why? That people used it? I guess? The funny thing is, if they wanted to be sure people used it, they should have just made it make you do more damage. That always works. Uh-oh. I don't know why those messages get yoinked as just subscribed, but thank you for celebrating 19 months as part of the Cult of the Pink, Bronto. Thank you so much for the support. I'll have to see if there's a way I can make the overlay not like actually read what that says a little bit better. Not sure if I can. Maybe. But thank you. Oh, I'm tanking something. Fantastic. Are there any jobs where their entire toolkit doesn't fit on 3 hotbars? Nope. There is no job in Final Fantasy XIV that has so many buttons that it can't fit on 36 buttons. Or slots. Hey, Super. Hope you're doing well. And thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that is fair on the Paladin thing on controllers, but Nozarel did say 3 hotbars, and the controller things are called crossbars. I believe you need 4 crossbars to fit everything for Paladin, but that's I'm pretty sure there's a lot of jobs that are like that, because most jobs pass 24 buttons combined. But yeah, based on what I have seen, isn't a crossbar 16 buttons? One crossbar is 8 buttons. I'm pretty sure, anyway. Ooh, spicy. I'm wondering if our tank does not know how the enmity list works, or enemy list works. Or they are mad that I accidentally pulled those mobs while doing exactly what they wanted me to do. I sort of assumed that each crossbar is a set of 8, but if a crossbar is 16, like a left and a right, times 8, then yeah, I guess you're right. It would be 16. In my defense, I've never played Final Fantasy XIV on a controller. So I just see one of those blocks and go, well, that's one. Just like how, like the way I use my hotbars is that each hotbar is a modifier. Like one is holding no button, the other two is holding a specific button while doing it. Hey Domino, hope you're doing well. Oops. Hey cat, hope you're doing well. I didn't even need to use Soteria the whole dungeon. Do you think of PvP in Final Fantasy XIV? It's alright. I don't really PvP very much in Final Fantasy XIV, but it's alright. I have a while ago, I participated in like as a shoutcaster on a PvP event for Crystalline Conflict. So, a little context here. Apparently, the tank didn't have a mouse after the first boss because the battery ran out. That does explain why they had some trouble picking up individual mobs. Yeah, hard mode. Hey Andrill, hope you're doing well. Yeah, PvP in 14 is alright. It's a little jank, but they're improving it, like here and there. I would say if you're interested, like actually interested in PvP in Final Fantasy XIV, Crystalline Conflict is probably where the place to go. The problem is that like the queues for Crystalline Conflict, especially ranked, like they come in waves, and once the waves are gone, or even during the waves, it can be specific times of the day where they're active, because like the player base for PvP is not like, it's not huge. But the reason why I'm saying Crystalline Conflict and not Frontline is because Frontline is supreme chaos, like straight up just chaos, because like aside from potentially a 4-man pre-made of your own, or maybe like coordinating queues so you land in the same match as other people that you're playing with, like anything is possible. You could be completely dumpstered by exactly, Frontline is 24 versus 24 versus 24. You could be completely dumpstered by a pre-made that knows what they're doing. Like just a 4-man pre-made, because you can only queue in groups of 4. You could also just be screwed because your team happens to have a lot of like less experienced players. Like a somewhat, not outright common, but like somewhat uncommon situation in Frontline is that sometimes you'll end up on the team of scaredy cats. Which means that, like, they'll fight, but the moment the enemy strikes back, your teammates will just start running without fighting back, and then they die. And then you lose every exchange. And that can happen. So it can be very hit or miss, whereas Crystalline Conflict is more coordinated. And mainly people actually interested in PvP will do that. I'll say as an all, hope you're doing well, and thank you for celebrating 21? 24, 2 years as part of the Cult of the Pink, Milo. Thank you so much, it's been a long time. Thank you so much. Nate Trando, hope you're doing well. And to your question about the guide thing, Super, I actually, right around when Crystalline Conflict was new, I made a guide on that. Part of the reason why I don't really talk much about Final Fantasy XIV PvP is, one, I'm not very good at it, and two, it would be a topic that not a lot of people would see, which would mean that even if I did cover it, it would get swallowed up by the algorithm and then no one would see it. So I try my best to focus on topics that a little more people are interested in, because even if I'm very passionate about the topic, and even if people that watch the channel are very passionate about the topic, thank you, Ardell. Basically, if a video doesn't get over like a certain threshold of views, even if you Google exactly the correct terms to find the video, YouTube might still like show you 10 other videos that are close to, but not what you looked for, but has like 10 times more views. So it doesn't matter if I try to cover a topic that not a lot of people will click on. Like that is the unfortunate reality. That is why it's not me going like, well, I won't cover it if there isn't clicks in it. It's straight up, people don't click on it, then it is the ones that would click on it also won't be able to find it. It's just how it works, unfortunately. I'll say, hey, Kawaii Mochiti, hope you're doing well. Yeah, Frontline can be fun, it's just, it's very chaotic, so if you're not into that, but you're into PvP, then, you know, there might be another way. LQ when it says 40. Oh, a trial! Or a raid! What are we getting? Oh, Ultimate Weapon Extreme! Fantastic! And Ilana's here. And Agent Monica's here as well. Nice. The double bingo. Hey Fizzy, hope you're doing well. Uh-oh. People just barely managed to dodge. The big thing I can do to help with the orbs is preemptively try and set up barriers for everyone. Maybe Sacred Soil can help too. Oh boy. And another thing I can do is also heal people as they grab the orbs. Never mind, we didn't really need any of that, as it turns out. Yeah, solo tank that has a little bit of healing to support them can also easily do 2 orbs on their own. Hey Harry, hope you're doing well. Ui. Good catch, Ilana. Yep, that's it. That's the win. It doesn't even matter what comes next. I'm not even sure what you're supposed to do about those glowy orbs because the boss is dead at that point. Is Extreme Ultimate Weapon like the old version of Ultimate Weapon when the last dungeons were raids? Yes and no. Yes, that fight, the Extreme version, is technically kind of how it looked on normal. No, because none of those mechanics happened on normal. You know, speaking of Thorn and Extreme, Fizzy, I think the funniest incident in regards to Thorn I've ever had is that I had a run of Thorn and Extreme, the only time I've cleared it in Roulette, where like half the raid didn't even realize it was Extreme until like halfway through the ad phase. And we still cleared first try. We have not seen Buckman yet tonight. And yeah, it has indeed been captured in this series. I think it was an Endwalker. Not 100% sure, but I think it was an Endwalker. Yeah, that can happen, Ilana. If Ultimate Weapon is getting pushed along fast enough, the boss might have trouble actually maintaining the tank mechanic, and then it just resets. It happens. As it was in Dawntrail, fair enough. I'll say, Momo, hope you're doing well. Momo Kujo. I will queue when it says 49. And yeah, I would say most of the A Realm Reborn extremes, if not all of them, you can sort of like, if everyone is paying attention, then it is pretty like just go for it on mechanics. Like, you just need to learn a few things and you're good. Oh, straight up Sastasha, huh? With 2 classes. Of course, Momokujo. And David for Poof, hope you're doing well. Oh, it is in that one. Thank you for Poof. Straight up knew exactly the episode. Fantastic. But the A Realm Reborn extremes, those you can learn in an hour. Pretty consistently, I would say. Like, there are exceptions of, like, some players don't really have the chops. But you're, like, a lot of players can. Like, a lot of players are fine. The tank asked if they could wall to wall. I just said go as hard as you want. I'll go and check the memo. Red. Well, I'm not in combat, so I'll be able to catch up by jogging. Momokuji says for Scholar at level 50, I've been told it's better to out of war single target. Is it a decent gain? I actually go over that in one of my Mythbuster episodes. At level 50, depending on what duty, because of item level syncing, it can be a gain between somewhere around 4 to 10% over not spamming Art of War and auto-attacking. Like, notably, keep this in mind, Momokujo. Spamming Art of War instead of Ruin 1 itself is not a gain. Like, it doesn't do anything. Like, it's the same potency. But the fact that Art of War is instant means that you can sneak in more auto-attacks than if you were using Ruin. If you make sure to start auto-attacking. There's also the part that because it is instant, you can more easily sneak in lust rates if you need it. Oh. I thought I could make it. I just barely couldn't. But yeah, exactly, Momokujo. The trick is, it doesn't cost you anything to do Art of War instead. It's actually, like, arguably it's easier to spam Art of War on single target than spamming Ruin 1 because there's no cast time. Like, that also is a factor. But it is, like, in something like Castrum Meridianum, it's, like, close to a 10% gain. So, like, imagine for a second. Well, I'm going to continue if the tank goes BRB. Imagine for a second a Dark Knight going, oh, Dark Side, but that's only a 10% damage gain, so I don't have to do it, right? But of course, if you're not doing the auto-attacking, which is actually a little inconvenient, because as a healer, you have to actually target the thing and then, you know, enable auto-attacks to actually do it. Which is, like, not as easy as on, like, a melee or something. The tank said they had to BRB. I don't mind that. But, did you know that Sage can solo this dungeon synced? So I'm not particularly concerned about that factor. But yeah, it's sort of like a recurring thing. Scholars out of wars a gain on 1 at level 50, because it is, but it is only really a gain if you're like auto-attacking. But even if you're not, it's technically like a quality of life gain, because it like you're doing the same damage as if you had been spamming Ruin 1, it's just instant now. So it's like, it's still convenient. Our rogue just realized that I'm the small dragon. I am the pink lizard. Blizzard. Thank you for celebrating 14 months as part of the Cult of the Pink Taldabout. Thank you so much. And good luck with your prog. Also true, the rogue stunned the first boss. I noticed that too. It's the scurvy dogs! Here they come, the scurvy dogs. Throw some oranges at them. Yeah, that would help. We need Gangplank here, stat. Yeah, he can remove scurvy. On his own, though. Well, maybe he'll learn to share one day. Hey, Augusto. Hope you're doing well, and thank you so much. I do hope you enjoy your return. Momokujo says, how long have you been playing 4T? I have played it on and off since Stormblood, but about halfway through Shadowbringers, I've been like, my current subscription chain, you could say, has been from mid Shadowbringers to now. So So definitely. Since Shadowbringers. After speedrun strat, get to the boss room to trigger the cutscene. Tank stays in cutscene until they would get teleported to the boss room so they take no damage from the mobs. That's some gigabrain strats. Right. I will be right back, and then we keep going. In the meantime, sanity restored. Alright, I'm back. Hey Jesse, hope you're doing well. And hey Louis, hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, as it stands now, thanks to Twitch stuff, we have ad breaks, and for equal fairness, there's ad breaks on both platforms. It's only fair. So that would be why, but I specifically plan the breaks such that, to the best of my ability, you're not losing out on anything. I can see that I'll have to repeat that for Drat. But yeah, it's something like, if you don't do it yourself, then Twitch will do it for you. So I would rather force myself to make it work so that you don't get an interruption while something interesting is happening, than you getting memed by a surprise ad in the middle, right? And so, equality. But yeah, I'll have to repeat that. I see. Right around... Something could be happening to the chair during that. I mean, you're right. Suddenly it could start spinning, or I could start explaining something. Let's see. Hey, Akatosaka. Hey, Traverse. Hey, Drat. Hey, Louis. As I said, hope you're all doing very well. Trevor says pinned comment, maybe? About what? Like, it would have to be a pinned comment on every stream, then? Like, that's, as far as I understand, that's straight up how Twitch works. So... you know? Thanks so much for the Prime, Zazie. Hope you're doing well. Thank you. Yeah, I saw. Thank you for the dungeon, Rad. That jazz a Penta legend. Right. You see, did I miss anything else? Suddenly a lot happened while I was away, I feel. Enjoy your leveling of your rogue. I will queue when it says 11:5. Nope. Giant manatee costume. That would be really hard for me to get together in such little time. But that would be really funny. Now that's an ultimate. Hey Mia, hope you're doing well. And hey Boz Maker and Deadman, hope you're doing well as well. Oh boy. Thank you for the cheer, Ilana. Thank you so much. Somebody said hype train? Yeah, I don't know what suddenly activated that, but apparently. Yeah, I guess so, Ilana, but I think it was only one. Now I say only like I'm like not appreciative. That's not what I mean. Very appreciative. It's very nice. I just didn't think a single would initiate a hype train. I don't know. But it does say that it unlocks emotes if stuff happens. And those are unlocked to keep. That might be it, Traverse. That very well might be it. That one is also automatic. Somehow even easier as a Scholar. You don't even have to worry about cardio or anything. You just go... You just cast Ruin. Or maybe a Physic. This is a classic. I started this stream saying I was going to play barrier healers because... Hopefully, by just playing a lot of barrier healers, we will eventually get something where something interesting happens. Big emphasis on eventually. Hey Pete, hope you're doing well. That's awesome. If she's the one playing our paladin here, she's pulling big. It's very good. It's very fast. Hey Dyson, hope you're doing well. Do. How ironic would it be if you got Bachman for your 2000s mental roulette? Don't even know if it would be ironic at all. It would be basically expected. The 1001 was Bachman. So I would almost be surprised if it wouldn't be Bachman again on 2000. Well, I mean, yeah, it's 50-50. Either we get it or we don't. Right? Himoramu. You know, actually, Aerodel, I've noticed more and more recently that I'm getting a lot of Leviathan, so maybe we should add Leviathan to the list. That is not surprising at all, Fizzy. That is actually, based on my experience, that sounds exactly right. Like, I got used to queuing in the evenings like this because I got the impression it leads to less guild tests. Like, emphasis on less. We still get guild tests. And I still feel like Bachman 2000 will be almost guaranteed. Agent Monica's surprise Rathalos Extreme completed. Was that a different one? Very nice. 711 guild heads out of 2000. That sounds about right. I get like a third guild heads as well. LQ when it says 28. It's actually extra weird because I'm pretty sure my experience is that extreme trials are like second or third place, if I recall correctly. Like after guild tests. Well, thank you, Kiwi. Yeah, indeed. At least it's a hard version. Yeah. The last boss in this one can actually trip up some groups. I have wiped to it. Hey Sally, hope you're doing well. Is the bomb throwing one? Yes, it is. Sorry, Sally. You're back now. Hey Dunsenbergen, hope you're doing well. That's all right. I don't feel like I'm super mean, but you did well. The gigapulse. Nine's Roulette has been nothing but Crystal Tower lately. That seems to come a little bit in waves, in a strange way. I can't even explain it, because it's like, I don't understand why it would come in waves. No, wait, I think I know. The reason why it has turned back into Crystal Tower spam is because everyone finished their relic weapons quests. And if there's a bond, like if there's a big influx of new players, that would also do it. But yeah, I saw specifically like a pretty massive increase in variety in Alliance Raid Roulette when we got the relic step. That's a difficult one, Agatozaka. Actually, I'd almost argue that it'll be harder. Because, or more inconvenient. Because the Crystal Tower Alliance raids give the least amount of points for that relic step. Like, it's not that far off in terms of, like, points per time invested, but it'll be less. As far as I know, anyway. But it is it's an interesting question, because I wonder if they'll change it at all looking forward. I mean, this relic step is not that bad. Right? It's not that bad. So it wouldn't surprise me if they don't, like, make it easy at any point. Hey, Shaq. Hope you're doing well. Based on what I know, Agatosaka, the longer Alliance raids give more points per hour than Crystal Tower. Like, in a way, the longer ones have been like they overshoot a little bit, in that, like, they give a little bit more per time, relatively speaking, while the Crystal Tower ones give less. It's not going to make a huge difference, but for a lot of players, what matters is that if you get near raids, you need to do, like, the daily 10 days in a row, and that's it. While if you get Crystal Tower, you might need to do, like, in addition to getting the daily 10 times, you might need to do, like, 25 of the Alliance Raid Roulettes. That's correct, Shaq. However, we have yet to get a duty that is above level 50, I think. Gave 457 points with bonus. I believe the bonus for Alliance raids was 101. $111. Well, you know, almost the same. Oh boy! Bombs! Blip. I've heard that the biggest problem with the relic step is, I believe, materia is a little concerned. That's the Oceania data center. Because it might actually be hard to get the thing to pop on the rigs. I will queue when it says 49. An 8-man duty. And that's actually what wiped the group Agatosaka. Is actually what happened was that we pushed out the bombs a little bit. I was like, it's probably fine here. And then we died because the bombs were not pushed out enough. That was pretty much it. Never mind, we're back to 4-man duties. Womp, womp, womp. Sword of Kai. Wow. Where Ramu? Yeah, I think we've set a new record for the stream. We've reached level 60 content. Hey, Red Master, hope you're doing well. That's block, man. Yeah, 2 of them. Whee! Did you get Cape Westwind during Mental Roulette? I don't think I really started on the whole Mental Roulette grind before they reworked Westwind. Jose Fern, hope you're doing well. Tonight, the way I'm deciding what job to play is that we're playing barrier healers. The reasoning being that previously, whenever I've actually like picked out a barrier healer, like for even just one duty, there's almost always been someone being like, "Ah, yes, finally." Then I could really use some insight on how like to play barrier healer better. It doesn't really happen to the same degree with pretty much any other role. So I'm like, okay, tonight we're playing barrier healers, and maybe, just maybe, we will actually see something interesting. So far, the answer is no. Louis says, doesn't Astrologian count as a barrier healer? Why would it count as a barrier healer, Louis? As Login has barriers, so has White Mage. The game literally has definitions for what is a barrier healer and what is a pure healer. If you open the Party Finder menu and start to make a group, when you're choosing what roles players can be in a specific, or what jobs a player can be in specific slot, there is a quick choice, like a quick option for barrier healers. And Scholar and Sage are the only ones in that slot. So when I say barrier healer, I mean game's definition of barrier healer. I'm not talking about a healer that can produce barriers. I'm talking about literally what the game has decided is a barrier healer. And also, as Mia says, counterpoint, both of the barrier healers have regions and big heals, so they are all, like, they're not a DPS, they're not a tank, so they're also a pure healer, right? And if they're not, then White Mage and Astrologian are also not pure healers. Because they're also barrier healers then, right? Do you get more interesting dungeons when playing as a pure healer instead? Nope, because it's the same pool of dungeons. It's just random. Although you do make a great point, Cobalt, that it's quite consistent. Then when I pick a job that I will like, if I say, oh, I'm actually not that good at this job, then the game is like, all right, here comes expert roulette. Is Red Mage a healer? Nope. White Mage is better, a lot better in dungeons. Than who? Agatosaka. White Mage is better than what? Is good lose. Hope you're doing well. The reason why I'm like, why would White Mage be particularly good in dungeons, is because White Mage has the weakness of having Holy. Now you might say, but the stun, that's amazing. Of all the healers, only White Mage is a healer where your tank has to take note of the fact that their healer is a White Mage because of Holy. Because that means that the tank can no longer use their stun to, like, interrupt a mechanic or something. And the tank has to take note of it when placing mobs, because if the healer stuns quickly, then the tank can't move the mobs anymore. So, like, among the healers, a White Mage is the one that that as a tank you have to play around the most. And similarly, White Mage is a very late bloomer among the healers. I think my party doesn't quite understand this boss. Jesse says, I don't get why White Mage would be bad pre-70, but I don't have any experience with the other healers. That's the important bit. Like, if you don't know what you're missing, then it's really hard to compare. You might be like, well, White Mage is fine. It is. It's basically like, if White Mage is like B tier, for instance, just like to make up a number, then the other 3 healers, especially below level 70, actually below level like 74, because of Laughter's Misery, are typically A and S tiers by comparison in dungeons. Simply because White Mage's toolkit is a little weird at lower level. But White Mage is good, and it does good damage. Like, relative to all the healers, I think White Mage can do the most damage, like, personally, in a lot of dungeons, just because their spammed attack is stronger and they have presence of mind. But generally, the thing where White Mage falls behind is that while Sage and Scholar can just spam attack constantly, if the tank needs help, then the White Mage has to stop to heal them a lot more frequently. And Astrologian can also typically spam for longer. But it is very important to take note that just like with a lot of other comparison points, it's like White Mage isn't actually bad in this kind of content. It's more like the other healers are better at it. And there is a point where White Mage properly catches up. And it tends to have to do with Aflato's Misery. But it doesn't change the fact that White Mage having a stun on its AoE attack makes White Mage more complicated to use well than the others, and means that your tank has to actually think about the fact that their healer is a White Mage, whereas if it's an Astrologian, a Scholar, or a Sage, it doesn't really matter. Thank you, Erudil. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Akasaga says heals with OGCDs in dungeons easily same as the other healers. Not when you're below level 50. The earliest OGCD that White Mage gets is Benediction. The earliest OGCD that Astrologian gets is Essential Dignity. Level 18 compared to level 50. And a much shorter cooldown. And the Scholar and Sage, they get theirs at level 46, and again are a lot more spammable than Benediction. White Mage's second OGCD is SIs, which are using on cooldown, so it's not very useful as a healing tool because it's a damage tool that happens to also heal. And then you get Tetragrammaton, which is level 60, which basically means that it is like it's competing with Essential Dignity. And then after that, it's basically, again, the problem is that by the time that White Mage has Tetragrammaton, Astrologian has cards, Essential Dignity. I think they have Celestial Opposition by that point as well. So it's essentially a case of White Mage is fine, it's just that the other healers get way more stuff, and that's not, like, that's actually just unfortunate. Agotosaka, I don't know why you worded like that. I literally just said not that. White Mage probably has the ability to blow up a wall-to-wall pack faster than the others if it gets killed really fast. The problem is that White Mage is the most likely to get caught up in spamming heals if it doesn't go really fast. Whoops. Whoops. Double whoops. Triple whoops. Quadruple whoops. Yeah, S-Eyes is a big burst, but Sage has Phlegma. Let me get just properly respond on that one, Agatozaka. The thing that makes White Mage worse, especially in lower level dungeons where Afflatus Misery is not available, but even in higher level dungeons, you could say, but not by much once we get to higher levels. The problem with White Mage there is that White Mage is, as I said, a late bloomer. It gets many of the tools the other healers just have inherently. White Mage gets a little later, so they're a little slow on the uptake in that regard. The reason why White Mage is considered worse than the others is because while in a perfect scenario where your tank happens to be a warrior, so you don't need to heal anyways, for instance, you can just spam Holy and SIs to your heart's content, and it's fine, it's cool, it's Gucci, right? But White Mage, among the 4 healers, especially in lower level, has the least tools to actually deal with the possibility that your tank is bad. That's the problem. Like, sure, White Mage probably can do the most personal damage. I'm pretty sure it does. But when you're doing a random dungeon where your tank is like a box of chocolates, you'd probably prefer to be more flexible defensively. Right? But again, White Mage is fine. It's just that it is not as well kitted to handle these things as the other healers. It's not. It's basically it's not capable of doing it. It's just that the other healers are better at it. Hey Seraph, hope you're doing well. I will queue when it says 48. Jack says, I wish they got lilies at 50. I wish that Afflatus Misery, or just a weaker version of Afflatus Misery, was learned at a much lower level. Because the biggest problem with lilies before you get Afflatus Misery is that they're basically just a free instant cure 2 until you get Afflatus Misery. Oh! Agent Monica's here. I think? Yes. And Seraph is here as well. It does look like I finally got sniped into an extreme. Tank stance? I mean, that doesn't matter until the ads spawn, like now. Since Rathalos doesn't have an aggro table. Whoa! Hagatozaka, I feel like you're only listening to half of what I'm saying. and trying to get a specific statement out of me like some sort of journalist. I will actually just not answer to that when you're saying, would you agree to X? No, I will not. I straight up will not. I actually explained myself already on that point. I explained that it is more complicated. And yeah, that's correct, Jesse. You have to check that in the party list. Does he just keep targeting Agent Monica with that? Uh-oh. Ow. No, they have not, Cobalt. What made you think that? Jaime? No, I was using... Cobalt, I'm using Isuna on them because they get a dot. And then they drink a potion. See? Dot, Isuna. Drink the potion. Agent Monica. Why? Or were you out of potions? Ah. That makes sense. Agent Monica kept getting targeted. That was also very evil. Man! Why? Wow! The potato hate is real. Why? Ow. Okay, well, no one else took it. We might not have needed it, but I never want to take the chance on that. Yeah, what made us wipe before was that Rathalos got a very, very nice double kill on us. And then he just kept targeting the same person with the stack marker, which meant they ran out of potions. Down gauge work on actual hits. I believe it counts the amount of actions used. I don't remember if it's only GCDs that count. But technically, it makes no difference as long as you're using GCDs. Hey, who else? Hope you're doing well. At least the double combo there was on the tank, the only one that can survive that. Harry says GCDs only. Well, there you go. Nice. So, to give a slightly more accurate answer to your question, Artazaka, White Mage has incredible AoE burst potential once they have Inflator's Misery. They even do before they have that, thanks to SIs. However, the greatest burst potential of White Mage when they have Inflator's Misery is achieved when their tank doesn't need them. Because then you can just yeet the lilies in between poles. And then you can open almost every pole with a Flatter's Misery for huge damage. And you can just spam Holy the whole way. But it is worth mentioning that Holy is the third worst of the healer AoE buttons. Like spammable AoE attacks. Both Art of War and Disgracia beats it. So once Azai's and the Flatter's Misery have been spent, the other healers can catch up. Sage in particular has an AoE dot, and Flemmer does good damage, and they have Psyche as well. It's like, they also do huge burst. So White Mage having like a very, very high burst potential is cool, but that does not make White Mage the best. Hey Reaper, hope you're doing well, and thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. But generally speaking, the things that you need a healer to be good at in dungeons, White Mage is good. It's just that the other healers tend to be better. And if you're doing, for instance, if you're doing Mental Roulette, the thing that makes White Mage a weird pick is that White Mage is the weakest in a large level range. Like specifically at level 50, only White Mage does not have their MP management options. So you basically need to use Ethers to even have a chance of keeping up with any of the other healers. But they have Cure 3. Like, they have something. It's just that it comes at a massive cost of basically no OGCDs. Things like that. But it, like, as I said, when we say, a lot of the time, when we say this job is bad at this thing, a lot of the time, what we really mean is it's the worst among kings, right? Like, all of them are good. It's just that someone has to be at the bottom. And the reason why White Mage stands out like that is because Holy, while amazingly good on paper, requires a lot more brain power from your team than the others in that regard. But again, when I say a lot more, it's because the other three healers does not require you to think about it. Like, they require 0 brain power because they attack, while White Mage stuns things, which makes it complicated, right? That's what it is. That's it. Like, as I said, White Mage is fine. It's just that in, like, from level 1 to 17, Scholar is objectively superior because they have a pet and also can cast the same healing spell. And from level 18 onwards, Astrologian also has Essential Dignity, but otherwise is equal. The only thing White Mage has there is they have Aero, which is a dot that does upfront damage. None of the other healers have that, so White Mage has slightly better damage potential while moving in low-level dungeons. And then you hit, like, level 30s, and while White Mage is getting Regen and Cure 2 and Cure 3 and all that, Astrologian gets Aspected Helios, like, 10 levels earlier than White Mage gets Medica 2. So it's basically like, I'm not saying White Mage is, like, the problem is White Mage is just set up to lose in these cases, right? Like, I'm not saying that, like, I'm also not saying that it's a mistake to pick White Mage. White Mage can do all the content. I keep saying this, that all jobs are viable. All jobs are good. All jobs are fine. It's just that some jobs are better. and being the burstiest on damage of the healers is very good when you know your team is bringing it on the damage. But because of the way White Mage's toolkit is designed, once the initial burst is over, it might be the best right at the start of a pull, and then as the pull progresses, it just drops in ranking among the healers in a dungeon pull. That's basically the problem. Hey music, hope you're doing well. The best job is whatever I'm having fun with today. Exactly. That's the best one at you having fun. And yeah, exactly, Fizzy. Some healers are just better in specific content. In specific contexts. It's just that, for instance, a White Mage has a, like, as I said, is a late bloomer. It gets some of its most crucial tools weirdly late. And while the other healers are just like, wow, I can't hold all these OGCDs, White Mage is like, I have benediction. Like, if you need a huge amount of healing, I've got you covered. Just a little bit, nope. It's all or nothing. That's all I can do. And like 10 levels later, they're like, about that smaller healing. I have it now. Oh, everyone else is doing OGCD party healing? Well, I have one of those too. But like, imagine, for the sake of example, imagine if Scholar and Sage didn't get their Adder Skulls or Ether Flows until like level 66 or something like that. And that's the weird thing. And you see, the thing is, the reason why Afflatus Misery gets this strange, like, it's mandatory effect is that it's not, but it's just that where the other healers basically get to do something like Lustrate as an OGCD, in that same level range-ish, you know, a few levels later, White Mage can do that, but at the cost of their GCD. So while the Scholar can go add low lustrate to like just spam heal with both hands, White Mage can't. So it's at a weak point if it has to mega spam heal, and the other healers just do it better. Like, that's basically what it comes down to. If your team is amazing, then White Mage is also really good because it has all that burst potential. But generally, like, win more strats. You know what I mean? Was I really in? Hope you're doing well. Anyway, I will be right back, and then we will continue with more mental roulettes. In the meantime, sanity restored. Alright, I'm back. I would also add, real quick, because that's something that can sometimes get lost in the sauce in regards to discussing things like this. Is that if someone had come in being like, Sage is the best at dungeons, I would equally have been like, well, don't get too hasty because this other healer has this and this other healer has that. Like, White Mage might also get a little bit of a like badge if any other healer was mentioned, because each of the healers have some sort of advantage. Which is like, if someone goes, oh, White Mage is the best at this, I'll be like, well, the other healers are also really good. Exactly, Akatosaka. Exactly. In fact, if someone said Sage is the best healer in dungeons, like, as I said, I would probably be like, well, this healer can do this healer can do that. But I would probably be like, yeah, I'm the best at healing dungeons with Sage. Like, me personally. So I would be like, I'm biased, however, I recognize that. Anyway, I'll queue when it says 21. JC says, so basically White Mage has a harder time when overwhelmed. In lower level dungeons, possibly. In higher level dungeons, it might not matter, really. Like, there is a specific level where all 4 healers have the tools necessary to deal with whatever. And then it's just, well, this healer happens to deal with it slightly better. Or this healer has this particular wrinkle, this weirdness about it, or that weirdness about it. Like, it really heavily comes down to like a certain level range. Lechar's here! And Ilana! We have 2 gamer tanks. We're good. Hey, Corflare. Hope you're doing well. And Seraph is here. We've taken over at least half the party. I'm glad to hear that, Corflare. Thank you so much. Oh. Here it comes. Very nice. Indeed, Corfland. That's the second one today. So an interesting thing I just wanted to point out about this Twitch discussion about White Mage versus Scholar is that before level 76, indeed, aside from Medica 2, which is like 700 potency combined over the duration, White Mage's only big heal is Cure 3. They also, from level 70, have Plenary Indulgence, which makes whatever AoE healing they are doing 200% more for 10 seconds. And it's a pretty short cooldown, so they can spam that. Now, what I think is very interesting is that while that is a fair counterpoint to be like, no, Medica 2 is right there, Akatosaga's counterpoint was focused on Scholar's Succor pre-level 50, but White Mage doesn't even have Medica 2 pre-level 50. So that counterpoint falls a little flat because it becomes very biased, because you basically go, yeah, well, you don't have, like, we have this tool you forgot about, but you don't have this other tool, and then you quietly forget that you also don't have the tool you mentioned in that level range. There's also the part that Succor is surprisingly potent. Medica 2 is exactly 50 and under. Medica 2 is exactly 50. Period. And over. Medica 2 is learned at level 50, Akatosaka. And something really important to take note of is that Cure 3 has gotten some potency boosts from traits, if I recall correctly. It's not 600 potency. Similarly, Succor also gets that. But, is it 550 baseline? But yeah, that is fair. Cure 3 is very potent. The problem with Cure 3 is mainly that it is very expensive. And pre-level 50, where you have Cure 3, that MP cost is very steep, because you don't have MP management tools, while slightly, significantly sooner, Scholar has this. But that's also what I mean, is that it still falls a little, like, the conversation becomes very biased when you go, no, actually, we have Medica 2, and then you very heavily, like, attack the counter, instead of trying to be more balanced. It makes it feel like you don't care about getting the truth, you care about White Mage winning. And that makes not for a not very interesting discussion, does it? But that's true. Succor is not very good for spamming, but there's not a lot of casual content you would meet on a regular basis where it matters that you would have to quote-unquote choose between getting the barrier or the healing from Succor. And then there's also the Whispering Dawn thing. Like, the thing is, this is an interesting point of what I mean, that all the healers are good at different things. The problem with White Mage there is actually not Scholar or Sage. The problem is Astrologian. Because outside of very specific, like, Coils of Bahamut situations, Cure 3 is overkill. Like, you don't need that much, and it's too expensive and all that. And once you get to that point, Astrologian has Medica 2 cheaper. Like, they have straight up Medica 2, but cheaper. And they also have Essential Dignity, and they also have cards. Like, that's the problem. Like, that's the real villain for White Mage in low levels is... Exactly, and they have it at level 40. Like, there's so many points where, like, the problem isn't Scholar or Sage. White Mage can do things that Scholar and Sage can't do at level 50. There are some points where it doesn't matter the things that White Mage can do because the barrier healers, like, what they can do is more important. But Astrologian is basically better at everything aside from very niche things at level 50 compared to White Mage. And that's the true weakness, and that is why White Mage is considered such a late bloomer. Stream avoiding. But yeah, as I said, White Mage is fine. I'm just saying, I've done Ramuh Extreme on basically all of the healers by now, at least once. And it was only White Mage where I needed to use Super Ethers. To be fair, a lot of reses got in. It's like that's also something to consider. I'll say Travis and Isaac, hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Back to Sage. I will queue when it says 8. Jesse, there is specifically a weird jank. I highly recommend reading the tooltips while synced down on Scholar. Before you get Broil, Out of War does the same damage to a single target as Ruin 1. Which means that you could just use Out of War, and that means you get more auto attacks in. I have a Mythbuster video talking about the exact DPS gain that is. But once you get Broil, you don't do this on single target anymore. But you get Broil at like level 54. New Talon. Ruin 1 is 150 potency, Out of War is 150 potency. Sync yourself, go into a level 50 dungeon, and check. I'll show you after this. I'll say, Christopher, hope you're doing well. In fact, you're probably thinking of Ruin 2 as well. But genuinely, Neo Talon, boot up the game, set it to unrestricted party, and synced, and go into level 50 duty and check the potencies. Ruin 1 is 150, and Out of War is also 150. Sounds like a doctoral defense. I've had to defend this case many times because it's a classic that people say that one specifically. They read the tooltip as is at whatever level they happen to be and go, what do you mean? Are Realm Reborn extremes hard? Relative to all other content you will have done before an extreme, yes. Relative to extremes after Realm Reborn? But if you are interested in getting into it, Danzenbergen, I have a video on the channel where I go through in like under 2 minutes for every single Realm Reborn stream the important mechanics to watch out for. Like there's also, you know, dodge the AoEs and all that, but I specifically go over all of the scary mechanics that could wipe you. Thank you, Aerodel. Aerodel posted a link to the video. Oh. I mean, they did the correct move. No one else was expecting the line. Now we need to see whether it's sword. It is sword. Very nice. Look at these gamers. Right, so I'll quickly show what I mean. So, you do this. This is the way to check tooltips at a specific level. Any level 50 duty will do. Doesn't matter which one. Ruin 1. 150 potency. Ruin 2. 140 potency. By the way, in very specific gear contexts, Ruin 2 can beat Ruin 1 with auto attacks. But not really. Because, you know, Ruin 1 also gets auto attacks. It's just it gets less. Because every time you cast Ruin 1, your auto attack is delayed by just about 1 second. And then we have Art of War at 150 as well. No worries, New Talon. I'm almost certain I know what you saw. And I'll get to that in a moment. So you see, Art of War is also 150. Also couldn't check myself due to being in a Mahjong match. Okay, that's fair. Those take an eternity. You can see here, and this is actually quite interesting because Art of War gets a bigger potency boost than Ruin 2 at level 54. So even at level 54, Ruin 2 is beaten by Art of War. Louis says something to go into Caetsu Mythbuster, I say. Aerodel, do you have the Mythbuster where I explain exactly how much of a gain on 1 Art of War is? So I'm almost... Oh. Aerodel found it. I think. Let me just send it over on YouTube as well. Thank you. But yeah, I have basically gone over that a few times. It's a classic. Like, I think I've featured that factoid in fun facts at least like 3 times, and I've mentioned it in videos, mentor roulettes or otherwise, multiple times as well. Because it's such a random thing, and it has been the case since at least Endwalker. Right. I will queue when it says 44. Oh, sorry, Louis. Might be. What was the thing you were discussing again? We got it. We got it. We managed to do it, guys. We got a guild test after all. And Ilana's here. TBN giving bigger shield on higher max HP due to buff? Yes, it does. Assuming that you use TBN while the bigger HP is active. Since it gives 25, it's a barrier of 25% of your max HP. And it'll be based on however much HP you have at that very moment. Yeah, I get that, Travis. The thing is, the counterpoint to that, like, some players will be like, that's scary, you might end up teaching the sprouts the wrong thing. Didn't stop ninja dotons from being a thing, did it? Hey Ham, hope you're doing well. I will queue when it says 22. Like, the thing is, if a sprout sees someone else spam Art of War at level 50, and then they just go, I should spam Art of War on single target at level 70, then how do you save them from that? Because they could see some other thing that works at level 50, but not at level 70. Right? Like, there has to be a line somewhere. Oh! P1N! But basically, if you're avoiding doing the optimal thing at a specific level because it's not optimal at a higher level, that can put you in a lot of weird positions. Like, another example, you're level 50, you're a black mage, do you just not cast anything? Imagine if the Sprout Black Mage gets the wrong idea and thinks that Fire 1 should be spammed once you have Fire 4. I am being very hyperbolic right now for the memes, just to be clear. That's why I'm like, if they're uncertain, they can ask. And be like, why are you spamming Out of War on single time? I'm like, at level 50, it's worth it. That's also why when Jesse asked about it and mentioned level 60, I was like, no. It's level 50 that it matters. At higher level, it's a different story. It's a very important distinction. You could probably elaborate a lot better on a lot of things. Oh yeah, definitely. Charles says, I only got asked once, your video got linked. Fantastic. Heyo, hope you're doing well. If you time traveled 3 years ahead, what do you think 14 will be like? I have no idea. Yeah, exactly, Agatozaka. And you know the funniest thing is I have legit, genuinely seen stories of people being told not to use Cure 1 in Sastasha when the tank needed healing. Like, okay, what do you want me to do then? Exactly, Vince. I believe it's level 46 to 53 that Art of War is a gain on 1. Because it's when you get it until you get, and then up to the point where you get Royal. That's okay, Jesse. I just wanted to be sure that we got it right. Oh, there were a lot of people that were indecisive on their... Oh, whoops. I forgot to use a lot of things here. That's fair, Jesse. Just making sure. You see, the thing is, Neotalon, that if it was a scholar and they were told don't cast Physic in something like Sastasha, if the tank needs healing, then the tank needs more healing than what the fairy is providing, and then you kind of have to do it. Earlier, we did Sastasha, where I was scholar. Oh, whoops. With Danzenbergen. And the pull was so huge that I needed to cast Physic on top of the fairy healing to keep them alive. Which DPS has the chunkiest big hit button or buttons? I believe Ninja still takes the first place for highest single hit possible. With Hyoshoranryu. And yes, for the record on what Louis just said, Ninja had first place in that video as well. Although the distance between Ninja and White Mage has reduced further. And of course there's also, you know, Blue Mage. Thank you, Erdl. But yeah, Samurai can do pretty big hits as well, especially in Dawntrail, where they've caught up a little bit better. But the big weakness that Samurai has, relatively speaking, is that a lot of their, like, potency potential is wasted, quote-unquote, on guaranteed critical hits. Which means that while that basically their big meaty hits are going to be bigger on average, but they will not be the highest potential. Seems like our gunbreaker knows me. Blue has unlimited damage button with blue cringe. I usually call it mortal cringe, but yes, exactly. That is actually mentioned in the video that it had that because of something like that. Because of things like that, I had to make the distinction that it has to be a single hit. I'll say, Brett, hope you're doing well. And thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. And hey, MTL, hope you're doing well. But genuinely, it's like, I believe at present that the ranking is something like Ninja, and then like in an extremely close second. Like we're talking, it's like niche details. We have White Mage for the biggest hit. Again, if we're not counting Blue Mage. And then I think third place is something like, I think it might be Red Mage's Prefulgence or something like that. Oh, that's true. Phantom Rush is probably third place, actually, MTL. And then fourth place might be Prefulgence. Can you play Blue Mage in dungeons? Yes and no. Yes, you can, but no, you have to have full pre-made. You cannot queue for stuff as Blue Mage. Also, clearing duties as Blue Mage does not count for duty completion. MTL says Yoshua is 1,300. Actually, MTL, you might want to watch the video that Ariel posted, because you already overlooked one crucial detail. Hyosho Ranru has a baked-in 30% potency boost. And it is exclusively used during a different 10% potency boost. And it is situated on a job that just so happens to have a rate buff anyways. So when Ninja is there, there's 8 rate buffs instead of 7. And then your Bonnie. But yeah, that's what I mean when I say, yeah, Monk is probably third place then. It might even be second, but like, Phantom Rush is a lot higher, but Riddle of Fire is a lot less potent. And they don't also have Trick Attack. So Riddle of Fire is like, they're replacing Trick Attack and Caetsu with Riddle of Fire. And then they have Brotherhood. Sage, I will queue when it says 11. Louis, Black Mage whispering, Xenoglossy. Xenoglossy is actually, Black Mage is very good at having a lot of big hits, because, like Flare Star is, like, close. Like, when you add all the things together, it's like 1,500 potency or something like that. But that's at the end of the whole addition situation. Yeah, by the way, finally high-level content. We did it! I just remembered I have an AoE dot. Good thing I didn't remember it later. If Irillian says Ifrit has a comment on the stream. What is a lizard of the Irillian? What is thy wisdom? He said blip. Fantastic. Amazing. He's a genius made manifest. But yeah, it is like the job with the highest, like single biggest hit is a little surprising, you could say, what the result is. Because it is like genuinely a lot of the things you'd think would rank high is a little lower than you'd expect. But I'm also pretty sure in regards to Phantom Rush, I'm pretty sure Phantom Rush got like buffed a lot in Dawntrail. Which job you think has the visually best final move? Like you mean like the level 100 action specifically? Yeah, I was gonna say Flare Star. Whoops. Did the tank stand in the overlap? I say Crazy Dialga, hope you're doing well. Or ultimate moves? Not really. I feel like we have too many ultimate moves by now. Most jobs have an like at that point I'm not talking about like something like an invuln or benediction. I'm talking more about like final attacks. Many jobs have a final attack follow-up. I would actually really like it. Like, let's say next expansion comes and they just continue down like kind of the path that we're going, that you just like, we go 10 more levels, we get some new actions, no major job changes. I would really appreciate if all the additions were filler related instead of burst related for once. That would be nice. Like, really random sidetrack. Earlier today, for Wondrous Tales, I did a level 90 dungeon alone. I did Smileton as Paladin. When I wasn't using my burst, so, you know, fight or flight and all that, mobs took an eternity to kill. The moment I used my burst, things died so fast that I couldn't finish my burst. Like, it felt like my damage was so heavily concentrated in the burst that that was the only time damage was actually really appearing. That's of course not exactly what happened, but that's what I'm thinking of when I'm like, it would be nice if they stopped it with the burst. Like, give us something else. We have plenty of burst. Trying to say it's me as warrior in deep dungeons? Yeah. On that note, Akatozaka, I have kind of given my thoughts on that. Sort of. I put out the video somewhat recently about Final Fantasy XIV's this seeming desire to both want to be vertical and horizontal. And I'm just saying, while an impossibly unlikely wish, I think it could work. If we just stayed at level 100. Oh boy. Thank you, Erdl. I would also say that ultimate moves, especially ultimate moves that are learned a little too early, kinda can sort of devalue or deflate the potential value of other ultimate moves. Like, the fact that all 4 tanks have an invuln by level 50 means that there is no way to give someone something better than that. You already have the best possible move. And of course, the way that you can sort of still give a tank an interesting move is by going, yeah, well, it has a cooldown, so how about we give you a different ultimate move? Like a 40% mitigation option, but that one is only a 2-minute cooldown. Eh? Or the fact that some mechanics just ignore invulns, so you straight up just can't. You can't use your ultimate move because this specific mechanic has like a funny tag on that says nope. The big problem, Medusa, is that in Endwalker we actually still had more of those kind of jobs. But because of how effective the 2-minute burst meta was, jobs that didn't also have a solid 2-minute burst were at a disadvantage. The specific example that I typically point to is before Paladin's rework in Endwalker. Paladin was like, they had a burst, technically. Also, their blades combo got buffed immensely to try and help them. The problem was that Paladin was at the end of the day, they had a very strong dot they maintained, which made them more like a sustained damage dealer as a tank, of course. But that made them the weakest tank for multiple reasons. Like, part of it was also that simply that the game was kind of like, the fights were designed to screw over Paladin, because whenever bosses became untargetable, they also became invulnerable, which meant that even if you managed to like quickly sneak in your dot so that it was already applied, didn't matter. The boss is invulnerable. So Paladin was like at a huge disadvantage as a result. Like, that bit could be solved, but basically, long story short, is that the 2-minute burst meta is so impactful to damage potential that if you made a like heavily sustained damage focused job, it would pretty much have to, in the current state of the game, be packaged with a 20-second burst window every 2 minutes. Just to make sure. Viper kinda has that, by the way. It has sort of a heavy emphasis on its, quote-unquote, emphasis on its sustained damage. It's just that its 2-minute burst is so insanely concentrated that like 50% of your damage output comes from your reawakens. I'll say Nuclear, hope you're doing well. And hey, Ender Sackboy, hope you're doing well as well. And also, to your point, Ender Sackboy, I think I've mentioned this before. The devs have kinda tipped their hand on that specific topic. I do not believe that any job will end up with more than 32 actions, including role actions. And what I mean by that is, I've explained this one before, but in Endwalker, Ninja got new actions called Raiju, just fleeting and forked Raiju as one button, and they also got Phantom Kamaitachi as a separate button. Then, very quickly, they realized that the Raiju actions were a bit problematic. Basically, both fleeting and forked Raiju was a dash, like a gap closer. So Ninja was basically super glued to whatever they were fighting for the large majority of combat, because every time they used one, it was a combo into the other. So, like, if you think about how many Raijus a Ninja uses in a fight now, double it. And remember that every single one was a gap closer. They changed that, split the Raijus in two, buffed the potency of them so that it kind of made sense. And then, yeah, they added another button, right? So they shoved Phantom Kamaitachi in under Bunshin to keep the button count the same. So they have sort of indicated how many buttons they think is reasonable to give players. And that is around like 32 from what I can tell. So it would shock me if they suddenly changed their stance on that. Brontom says how many jobs didn't have 2-minute bursts at that time. I think only Paladin and Black Mage. Let's see. in Endwalker. I think that's it, yeah. All the other jobs either had a literal 2-minute burst, like clearly indicated, or they had, I didn't mean to do that. Or they had, like, clearly cooldowns to use every 2 minutes. Technically, Paladin also had a 2-minute, like, had a burst. It's just that because its damage was so spread out, its 2-minute burst, or its 1-minute burst as it was, if you're going to be, like, precise, kinda sucked. Like, essentially, the problem with a sustained DPS is that, for balance reasons, a sustained DPS's damage curve, like the shape of its damage output, had to be the opposite of what Pictomancer's damage curve is. If you don't know what I mean by that, basically, Pictomancer does 0 damage for about a fifth of combat, because they're just painting things that don't do anything. They need to do more damage, for instance during burst, to make up for that. A sustained DPS does more damage all the time, so the tax for being able to do that is that you do less damage during bursts. That was what Paladin had. It's just for balance reasons, that meant that Paladin did very bad damage for burst. Is that one boss from Fellowship? I see we have to do a button count after this dungeon. What do you mean, Jesse? potions in your inventory work on Rathalos Extreme? I don't believe so. I'm pretty sure it's only the special potions that they provide that works, because everything, all other healing is set to 0. Yeah, come to think of it, that was actually a pretty long Skydeep Cenote. Right, the button count. Let's see, Paladin. True, it's 33. I believe Ninja is at 32. I think they're at 31 actually. It's a very, very fast estimate. Well, right there at the end at least, Nuclear, both of the DPS died at some point. Good luck, Jack. As far as I can count, your Scholar would be 34 then, right? No, 33 as well? Question mark? No, I'm a little bit confused now. Let's see, 36 minus 1, 2, 3. 33. Scholar is 36 minus 1, 2, 3. Technically. Like, the thing is, Scholar cheats, because if you want to be perfectly optimized, then a Scholar you kinda need to have place and heal for very specific scenarios. Which means that they have, like, an extra 2 ghost buttons. Let's see. I do think that devs need to find a way to phase out the 2-minute burst meta, because it feels like it's just optimizing the fun out of some jobs. It's complicated. I have said since at least Endwalker, like mid-Endwalker or so, I'd say, is around the first time I made a video about the 2-minute burst meta being a problem. Consider that before Endwalker, it wasn't called the 2-minute burst, because in Shadowbringers, some raid buffs were 3-minute cooldowns, some were 1 minute, some were 90 seconds, and things like that. So it wasn't the 2-minute burst, it was just when cooldowns happened to align, right? The thing is, I have been told at least, so like I wasn't like necessarily that deep into optimizing in that bit, but I have been told that while Shadowbringers was like the Wild West in this regard, around late Shadowbringers was when players started to take note of especially hard, like they probably also did in Stormblood, but in Shadowbringers, like specific party compositions were more common because, well, if you have this and this and this and this and this job together, then their raid buffs align better, making them better as a unit. So like you didn't see people, like you didn't necessarily see many jobs get excluded, but you saw jobs get like prioritized, which indirectly excludes other jobs because these jobs had the good cooldown. Thank you, Ardell. And then Endwalker basically like nipped that in the bud by going, actually, no, everyone has 2-minute bursts now. everyone's 2-minute, like, raid buff is a 2-minute cooldown. And, like, very, like, right at the launch of Endwalker, Ninja still had Trick Attack as a raid buff on a minute cooldown. And then, like, very quickly, like, nope, you don't have that either. Gone. That's on Mug, which is a 2-minute cooldown. Nope, you don't get to have it. Yours is a personal buff now on Trick Attack. Whatever. No, only 2-minute raid buffs. And then we very quickly went from the notion that sometimes raid buffs might align and you might want to, like, coordinate your rotation based on that, to it quickly morphing into, you can probably assume that a lot of groups will coordinate raid buffs, so you should probably do that too. Like, if you care, like, while my Shadowbringers job guides only got up to level 50, I believe I still held that belief early Endwalker when I started making high-level guides. If you check those, you'll find that when I explain the opener, I do explain that sometimes people, like, coordinate raid buffs, and that gives reason and credence to having a proper opener and blah blah blah. In my later guides, I'm like, the 2-minute burst is like a segment in the guide. Like, it's not a possibility. It's like, it's assumed to be inevitable that you need to know this. Whereas in the past, it was like something that, yeah, you'll happen upon it all on your own as you progress and become better. But nowadays, it's just the gold standard, right? Not everyone does it, but you can kind of assume that in a random party, some people are gonna do it. And the main problem I have presented with the existence of the 2-minute burst, the main problem I have suggested is that, and I kinda already brought this up in the dungeon we just did, and I think Nuclear also brought it up, because raid buffs kind of compound on each other. It makes it really hard to make a damage, like a job that does not depend on the burst for their damage, be as good as the other jobs. I think I might be able to explain this a little bit better with a drawing. If we have, like, this is damage and this is time, then we have something like, I don't know, a Pictomancer's burst is, you know, like right? And it goes crazy like that. Because of the way that raid buffs basically make this spike even higher, just like off the screen, just go crazy. If you had a job that was just full on, no, I have not, Agatozaka, thankfully. I also am drawing something other than squares. For a sustained DPS to keep up with this, they might need to do like this much sustained DPS. Just to be able to make up the difference. Which means that in a not coordinated group, the blue job will be completely off the charts, mega broken. Like, completely insane. But in a coordinated group, it's fine. So, how do you balance that? If you want to make sure all the jobs are, like, somewhat reasonably balanced, this just doesn't work. Because it would mean that one job is completely broken in specific contexts, and then it's just okay in others. That's basically the problem. And the way that Final Fantasy XIV has kinda fixed that is that they made sure everyone has a 2-minute burst. Now, some have better bursts than others, but this at least means that within some degree of accuracy, most jobs will spike in a somewhat equally predictable way when introduced to raid buffs. And then there's Pictomancer. Hey, Pictomancer's over there. Jason says, I think that's what I heard about Machinist. Machinist is not... It is kind of maybe the closest we have to the blue line. Machinist... Machinist has a burst. It just invents it itself. And it's actually a decently good burst. It's just that Machinist is dealing with some imbalance. It's complicated. What if you have a higher personal buff but weaker raid buff? I see the problem there, Grim Raven, is that this bit, that comes from everyone else. So if you have a higher personal buff, that makes you broken in raid buff contexts. Like that's the problem. That is also what makes a selfish DPS. I don't know, Jesse. Just recently I put out a video about Machinist, actually. Like a week ago or something like that. Something like that. But basically, if you have a job... Jose Rithian, hope you're doing well. It's been a while, hasn't it? If you have a job that provides raid buffs, then that job's potential is directly correlated with how much damage everyone else can do. Which, for instance, means that if Astrologian is untouched, White Mage gets a buff, but also Viper gets buffed in a patch. It is possible that Astrologian will, like, in terms of logs and potential, move equally with White Mage, because Astrologian gained the buff that Viper got by just putting cards on Viper. Hey Dinky, hope you're doing well. What would happen if we made the majority of jobs selfish DPS? It wouldn't change that much. It would just make the few that aren't selfish even more special. Agatha Saga says, I think it's okay that White Mage doesn't have raid buffs considering it's a selfish healer. That's correct, Agatha Saga, but basically the problem there is precisely that the way the balance is at present is that if you put any two healers into an average raid team, just an average one, then White Mage and Sage tend to perform better because the average raid team doesn't necessarily like coordinate raid buffs perfectly. And an Astrologian that isn't, like, that is just average, or a Scholar that is just average, is more likely to, like, maybe not use their raid buffs perfectly. And players in the party might not play into those raid buffs perfectly. But as skill increases, like, as you replace that average party with a above average party, with a significantly superior party, when you put in like world first racers, then as you increase the expected skill level, Astrologian and Scholar start pulling ahead, and Astrologian pulls ahead by quite a bit. The thing is, the average performance is good enough, but it still leads to this situation where the jobs that have raid buffs, like, really shine through when people coordinate them. Which means that we, like, that's also part of the reason why we can land in these weird situations. In, like, the last patch, I think. Something like that. There was genuinely a belief among more casual players that the nerfs that Pictomancer received meant that it was basically as bad as Machinist on damage output. Meanwhile, Pictomancer was still the mage being used in passing groups for the majority. Passing groups being people basically putting together the perfect team composition to do the most possible damage and then clear the boss as quickly as possible to get the best rank. So somehow Pictomancer was in this weird superposition where it was somehow both garbage and the best because the perception of the different groups of players were different. Jesse says, if Machinist needs more helping buffs, maybe we can start with Dismantle, increasing damage dealt. You see, the interesting thing is, Jesse, in my opinion, if we look at Machinist right now, Grim Raven says, Pictomancer does average damage now. Pictomancer's fine, but in a coordinated group, it does the most damage, or among the most damage still. Genuinely. Among the most. It's a lot better now. So, here's the confusing bit. And this is something that I sort of like sidestepped, but also brought up in the Machinist video. So this is CDPS. This is basically the most effective way to compare damage dealers, where you want to compare jobs with rate buffs with jobs without rate buffs on a somewhat equal playing field. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. You see, this is patch 7.3. You see Pictomancer's kind of mid, right? Imagine this is what you're seeing, Grim Raven, being like, oh, Pictomancer's fine, right? So, right now, we're looking at scores. If I change it to literal damage per second, then Pictomancer's median is like 31,000, but their maximum is 35,000, right? Like, this isn't necessarily about Pictomancer, but this is about learning how to read FFLogs a little bit better. So basically, Pictomancer's peak is around 35,000, right? In patch 7.3. Pictomancer didn't really get nerfed in 7.3. I'm pretty sure they got mainly, like, they got a little bit, like, they got adjusted a bit, but they got, like, basically they stayed the same, but they made sure that Hammer was good again. From 7.2 to 7.3, which means that if I go to 7.2, it should stay approximately the same, right? What happened? Pictomancer's median is 2,000 higher, and their maximum is 5,000 more. And actually, it's not even the actual maximum. The true maximum is 42,000, which in 7.3 was 36,000. What happened? Not as many people passing in 7.3. So the best players stopped providing logs. So Pictomancer isn't average. It's the players playing it that are. This is also what we saw with Machinist in the video, is that Machinist basically frog leaped over Bard and Dancer, but what actually happened is that both Bard and Dancer dropped their average DPS by like 2,000 each, while Machinist gained 200. We don't quite... It makes it really difficult. Basically, what I'm getting at here is this makes it really difficult to discuss the potential of jobs, because the jobs that do less damage do even less damage in these comparisons, because here's the thing. No one is bringing machinists to a passing group. But everyone is bringing Pictomancer. So the weaker jobs look even weaker by comparison. And then when the next patch rolls over, it becomes hard to see because a lot of players don't pass in the odd patches for some reason. But yeah, Pictomancer is very strong. It's just that if you don't know the full story, then it looks very mid. Andriel says, I think most people are just looking at the job's position on the board and not just how statistically insignificant one's job's DPS is versus another's. Correct. I have made this joke. Now I have to fish out FFLogs again. I have made this joke many times, but as I understand, most people that visit FFLogs don't read the logs like this. They read them like... oops. Come on. Like this. Sorry, my other monitor is smaller, so it gets weird. Do you get the joke? Why do people even take healers? They pass so low. Yeah, genuinely, there are a lot of people that read it like this. They don't like really get the context. But exactly, also that, Andriel. How in the world are you supposed to know that, oh yeah, a lot of people leave or stop passing on the odd patches? Right? So what do the other DPSs mean? So, A DPS, like there's 4 different kinds. There's R DPS, A DPS, N DPS, and C DPS. A DPS is the closest you get to literally what an in-game DPS meter would show you. Like, it's basically, how much DPS did you do? Essentially, it gives credit to the attacker for the damage they did in full, with few exceptions. The exceptions is that single target buffs, like I think like cards and closed position and things like that, don't count. Something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that. But basically, A DPS is the number a selfish DPS would be interested in. How much damage can I pump out, personally? Because that matters when choosing who's getting buffs, right? Who's getting the cards? Who's getting close position? R DPS is flipped so that the buff provider gets credit for the damage that their buff produced. So, for instance, a dancer uses technical finish and makes everyone do 5% more damage for 20 seconds. That means that those 5% damage is attributed to the dancer when you do big damage. NDPS is basically how much damage you're doing in a vacuum without anyone else. Like, you subtract any damage from raid buffs and just how much damage are you doing? Which means that jobs that like shove a lot of damage into bursts to like get more value out of raid buffs, they will look weaker in NDPS because they don't get to like ride the raid buff window. Like for instance, you'd imagine Dark Knight would look a little worse in NDPS compared to ADPS because Dark Knight, like they shove all their damage into burst for someone else's sake, essentially. CDPS is a lot more complicated, but it mixes it in a specific way where you get credit for the damage you provided and also the damage you did. Something like that. I can't quite remember, But essentially, RDPS is a lot of the time what you care about if you're comparing literally what a job brings to the table, right? How much value does this job provide? A DPS is more important if you're trying to see which selfish DPS is better. But RDPS is going to be like, well, I mean, if you had one job to pick and you want to add the most damage, then you pick the one at the top of RDPS. Well, Akatosaga, that is a spreadsheet, not a log. So no. But the important ones, like, the important bit is RDPS is how much the job actually provides to the team, and ADPS is how much damage potential that specific job can pull through. But it is not very easy to read all that. And as I said, how in the world are you supposed to know that the logs from an odd patch need to be interpreted differently than the logs from an even patch? Like, how do you get that additional context? Like, where do you retrieve that? And how long does it take to retrieve that? And that's like the big problem in understanding the logs. Exactly, without someone telling you. Like, at the moment someone is like, well, you see, the even patch is when world first raiders are farming. And they might be doing passes and such. By the odd patch, they've already done everything they wanted to do with the Savage Raid. So unless something new appears, they probably will not participate. So they are just removed from the equation. And that is true, Agatha-Saga. Something that can sometimes be difficult to pass, like, mentally, is sometimes one job is just, like, easier to perform well. Which is also why, the thing I said before, that in the optimal composition, with the best players, Astrologian and Scholar are, like, way better than White Mage and Sage, as far as I recall, in terms of damage potential. But as you lower the skill level, everyone comes closer and closer together, and at a certain point, White Mage and Sage pulls ahead. And the reason why Astrologian and Scholar pulls ahead when people are really good is because that's how raid buffs kind of compound, and the only way to make the game somewhat fairly balanced for most players is to assume a somewhat average performance when you're balancing the jobs. And the key thing, and I do believe I covered this in my Machinist video, the key thing that makes Machinist really weak in that regard is that Machinist has, like, their dismantle is actually really good for a raid, because it means, like, if you bring an extra, bring that ranged physical, you have an additional damage mitigation, whereas the other healers, like, the other ranged physicals, they have more, like, recovery cooldowns. Sure, improvisation can produce a barrier, but, you know. And Machinist's burst is, like, they're more, like, sustained damage, and their burst is, like, less reliant on raid buffs and all that. So, generally, a Machinist will perform better the worse your party is. In the same way that a White Mage and Sage probably would, relative to a Scholar and an Astrologian. It's of course not that clear-cut, but sometimes we have to make these kind of extreme takes to, like, get a point across. Travis says, people not reading outside the charts aside, does the log side address any of this stuff we're talking about anywhere? Not to say it's their responsibility, I'm just unfamiliar. Maybe? I don't think they do. I don't think they take a step to like be like, by the way, take note that in the odd patches, blah, 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 blah. No, they don't. Because then it would have been right there in our face, right? And the thing is, even if they did, it's very likely people wouldn't read that. Like, they straight up just wouldn't miss it. Like, this is a bit of a sidetrack, like a little bit, but just to give an example of how quick people can be to like just go like, nope, tunnel vision, looking for data, data acquired, and then you don't see anything else, is in Endwalker. My Reaper short, so I made shorts in Endwalker explaining in 1 minute, because that was the limit back then, the opener, like a recommended opener for each job, and a very brief explanation of the general rotation, maybe something about the 2-minute burst. For Reaper, at the time, they had 2 different openers. One was called early Gluttony. The other one was called Early Enshroud. Now, Early Gluttony had the advantage that it was perfectly functional regardless of what your GZD was. But Early Enshroud could clip the GZD if your GZD was any faster than, I think, 2.48. Which means that more casual players that don't really have a choice in what gear they're bringing will probably not have that very perfect GZD. Which makes Early Gluttony the better opener for a more casual player. So I explained the Early Gluttony opener, and then linked to my full guide, and in the full guide I mentioned that the Early Enshroud opener exists, but it has those skill speed limitations. On the Balance's Discord server, however, they had both the Early Gluttony and Early Enshroud openers presented, but they had basically at some point swapped their positions because Early Enshroud was the better opener for the majority of Savage encounters at the moment. So a lot of people commented on my short saying that I was an idiot because I was giving bad advice, because I was not suggesting the optimal opener. Now, the thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that it's very easy for me to say this now because they've changed that page on the Discord, so I can't prove it and you can't prove me wrong. But if you scroll down just past the images of the openers, then it said that which opener you should use depends on the encounter. However, if you don't know the kill time of an encounter, or if you're not sure, then Early Enshroud is usually better because it is better for more encounters. So like if you're like blind guessing, then just defaulting to the Early Enshroud is more likely to be correct because there are more encounters where Early Enshroud was better. But it also explained the whole GZD thing. That Early Gluttony is more flexible because of GZDs. But no one read that! That's true, Fizzy. FFLogs does have a page explaining the different damage types. I assumed what Travis meant with, does it explain these things on the site? I assumed it was more like the social things with the odd and even patches and all the things you can't see from the logs themselves. But yeah, basically what I'm getting at... Exactly, Zan. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, something like that. But in Endwalker, there were these 2 different openers. And the Early Enshroud was like 249 or maybe 248. Any faster than that, you're gonna clip the GZD. Early Gluttony didn't care. You could be 230 if that's what you wanted. Still works. So I recommended that one for my starter guide for Reapers that weren't Masters, right? With the assumption that, well, if you're going to be that nitpicky about it, you probably don't need my guide, you need the balance. But people didn't read far enough to realize this. Brontom says you should do a video on nuances of FFLogs like this exactly. The thing is, I feel like, me personally, I don't have enough insight to make a video on that without, like, misstepping and saying something that is also incorrect. There's also the part that I'm, like, pretty sure that the target audience of such a video doesn't actually care. If that makes sense. But yeah, basically, that's the funny thing in that Akatozaka, is that I'm like, if you get your guidance on how to play Reaper and you're going into a Savage raid and all the learning material you used in full is a 1 minute short, then you're underprepared. Yeah, that one also depends, Nuclear. But yeah, exactly. I had a similarly funny one with Machinist, actually. I believe I taught the I think I taught the early air anchor opener in my short, and like a week after I published that short, the balance switched the opener they recommended. But if you went into their advanced guide, they showed 3 different openers, I believe. Among them, the early air anchor, and then explained the advantage and disadvantage of each. But man, there were a lot of people telling me that I was the idiot for suggesting the opener that was the recommended one a week prior. And speaking of short... exactly, Akatsusaga. I watched your video from 2 years ago. This opener is unacceptable. I still have people comment on my most ridiculous opener short that that opener is idiotic because Fight or Flight doesn't... like, it should be used alongside Requisite. Or rather, Imperator. Not realizing that the video is covering a paladin that doesn't exist anymore. Anyway. Emu, hope you're doing well. So my Blue Mage static to watch your primal shorts to help get our achievements. If that's enough, I'm imagining that Blue Mage will get through those just as effectively. The problem is if you rely on just those shorts for minimum item level, no echo. There they will no longer apply. But yeah, we managed to get 13 duties done, and Only one guild test. That is a recent, like in for several weeks. I'm pretty sure that's a record, like a lower bound record. And we had well, we had 4 extremes, but 3 of them we did in one pull each. But with that said, I think this is where we'll be wrapping up the stream. We had a little bit of a logs conversation, a little bit of a balanced conversation here and there. We had the memes, but that said, if you want to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link right there in the chat. There you will find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up in the coming days. I usually update it Sunday and Monday. You'll also find the announcement room with links to videos and streams when I put them out. And if you grab the reminder role in the role assignments room, you'll get a notification whenever I post a video or a stream, as well as an extra one around 15 minutes before stream starts, so you can catch it right when we go live. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can become a member over on YouTube. You can subscribe over on Twitch. There's the bits, there's the super chats, there's all that goodness. You can also like the video over on YouTube. That also helps. If you don't like any of that, there's also a Ko-Fi link that Aradil posted right there in the chat. It all helps support me and the channel directly, so I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you. So thanks so much for the support. But that'll be it from me tonight. So good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are in the world. And I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye.